everybody, and welcome to the 2024 New York Seafood Summit kickoff event. So before I get into some introductions and kind of some overview of what the summit is, I want to start off with a little bit of housekeeping. Our summit event today is a hybrid event, so we do have about 15 people right now participating virtually. This is our owl. It's taking a 360-degree or 180-degree video of the room so they can participate as fully as you guys can here. But because of that, we do ask that as folks are talking or you keep the noise down so there's not too much background noise. And if you have questions, please wait for a mic. How are you? So that the people online can effectively hear everyone in the room. All right. For those participating online, please keep the mute on unless you are speaking. Oops, sorry. If you have any questions, you can feel free to send it in the chat. That is being monitored throughout today's event. All right. The event today will be recorded, so if you can't stay the whole time, you miss something, someone else might benefit from learning what we learned here today, you can share that. We'll follow up with the link to the recording of today's event, as well as our other Seafood Summit events. The Seafood Summit, well, first off, I'm Mike Saramella. I'm the Seafood Safety and Technology Specialist with New York Sea Grant, which is a multi-partner organization run through Cornell University and the SUNY system. We conduct research, education, and extension programs, development of resources and projects, all related to our coastal communities and resources, as well as coastal economies to support those communities and economies. As the seafood specialist, I largely work in the post-harvest sector, working with our producers, processors, anybody that's bringing product to market has to be in compliance with current food safety regulations. I do a lot with food safety compliance, seafood house of trainings, but also work in processing, nutrition, sustainability, and marketing. So in that regard, I started this New York Seafood Summit with a colleague, Dr. Stephen Fertini, who's here today. I'll introduce him in a minute. Back in 2016. So we're in our 8th year doing this. And the Seafood Summit started as a way to bring different sectors of the seafood industry together to start to have active discussions and collaborations amongst the industry to know what was going on across sectors across the state. Since the initiation of the summit in 2016, it has grown quite a bit. Thank you all for being here today. It has also expanded to reach more broadly across the state. As I mentioned earlier, this is the first or our kickoff event of the series. The second event is going to be in 2 weeks, February 27th at the Culinary Institute of America in Hyde Park. And then we'll have our third event on March 5th, and that's going to be in Geneva. So that's our upstate event. So trying to expand and reach the full length of the state and really target the different sectors of the seafood industry that operate in those different regions. I want to take a minute to thank our sponsors for this year. So Cornell Atkinson Center for Sustainability actually sponsored our event, making sure that we could accommodate. We did not have to charge or ask for money for you to participate. We will have some fresh seafood, local seafood tastings for everybody to prove as a network at the end of the day today. And that's all thanks to our sponsors, Cornell Atkinson Center for Sustainability this year. I want to also introduce the planning team that's been behind for the last about year, putting all of this together and coming up with the agendas and coordinating logistics for all of our summit events. In addition to myself, we've got Dr. Stephen Fertini, right, in the red hat right back here. As I mentioned, he started the summit with me back in 2016 and has been involved in the planning and coordination ever since. A new addition, we've got Bruce Mattel joined the planning team this year. Bruce is with the Culinary Institute of America. We're retired recently, but still actively engaged and working there. So congratulations on that. But he joined us officially on the planning team this year, although he's been involved with the summit for the past 3 years as the CIA has hosted our event for the last 3 years up there. My colleague Barry Gudelson, he is our aquaculture specialist within New York Sea Grant. He started back in February of last year and hit the ground running, helping with a lot of the crazy logistics of getting all the various local seafoods to the various events across the state, and has supported in that capacity and also with getting speakers and formulating the agenda for our events and all those logistics that go into that. Aside from those three, we've got three of my colleagues at Cornell Cooperative Extension of Suffolk County, joined a few years ago to expand and bring the summit out here. I'm gonna let them introduce themselves because they're our host for today. They're going to be emceeing, so you won't hear from me much anymore after this. But I will be around if anybody has any questions. To start off, I want to invite Vanessa Lockwood, the Executive Director of Cornell Cooperative Extension of Suffolk County, to make some opening remarks and to introduce her team.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. I'm Vanessa Lockwood, as was mentioned. I'm the Executive Director for Cornell Cooperative Extension of Suffolk County. A little bit about Cornell and who we are. We are an organization that's basically here supporting our agricultural community, our marine community, our community education. We're out here ensuring that our families have health and nutrition education, as well as we have our 4-H youth programming. So if you ever want to know a little bit more about what goes on in this building, don't hesitate to ask. But today we're here specifically to talk to you as a fisherman. Make sure that we get to hear from you what your thoughts are, the hardships that you've been dealing with, some of the good triumphs that have been going on too. That would be really great. So we're very, very excited for this opportunity to have you here. So we thank you for your time. We know you're all very, very busy. And so what are we doing here today? It's the opportunity to have our local officials in this legislative gathering to hear firsthand from you what's going on and how they can help. How they can help with money, how they can help with legislation, how they can help with so many of the issues that you yourself first know. Like we hear things about processing, we hear things about so many other needs that I'm sure all of you are going to discuss today, and we'll hear from our panelists. So we're very excited about that. And I just want to acknowledge our local officials that are here or that may be sending somebody in the audience. So we have Congressman Beloga, and his representative will be Peter Gangley. He'll be here today. We have Senator Palumbo attending, Senator Matera attending, Senator Monica Martinez as well attending, and she has her aide, Lisa Romana, who is also going to be here. We have Assemblyman Beal, thank you so much for being here. And we have Assemblyman Fitzpatrick, thank you so much for being here. We are also expecting Assemblyman Flood and Assemblymember Jody Giglio. On our local level, we have legislator Catherine Stark, and Derek is here. Thank you so much. Is Catherine coming? Is she coming?
Oh, indeed.
Hi. Thank you so much for being here. Representing for Catherine Stark's office, we have Sammy Gonzalez's office coming as well. Legislator Kevin McCaffrey, his representative Guy Calla will be here. We have legislator Jason Richburg, who was here last year. And for those of you who were here, he represents for the Wyandanch area. He was very vocal in the back. And as a matter of fact, he's the reason why we expanded some of this effort here, because the local officials in the back were like, how does this impact me in a different area that's not Montauk? You know, how am I Western Suffolk, Nassau? How am I helping you guys? So that's why it was really great. Having his perspective was really great. Legislator Von Tempe is here. I think I was trying to run for you as soon as you walked in, but thank you so much for being here today. We also have at the local level, we have our town supervisor, Kathy Burke Gonzalez. Thank you so much. Is she coming? She should be coming. We also have town supervisor Tim Hubbard. We have from the council, town council Bill Pell, town council member Denise Merrifield, and town council member Bob Kern. So a lot of local officials expected to be here. Not only did they say they may be coming and sending a representative.
Town,
Oh, I'm sorry.
supervisor.
Sorry, she wasn't on my list. No, she did, sorry. My apologies, thank you so much. Great, thank you so much for being here. My apologies. That wasn't on the list, but that's the point. We have a lot of local officials who are very interested in what's happening here today. So we're going to take a lot of copious notes. We're going to make sure that Michael and the CCU Marine team are also here, totally supported with anything that they need in the aftermath. So after today, you're going to be getting information and they'll tell you more about it. So we're very excited to have our local officials present and here to listen. And so I'm going to share with you a couple of the words that I had kind of put together. We want to extend our heartfelt gratitude to the fishermen and industry professionals assembled today, who share CCE Suffolk's commitment to advancing economic development while preserving the marine environmental vitality of our fisheries. We are honored to host this summit, facilitating crucial dialogue between elected officials and esteemed industry stakeholders. We want special thanks to our outstanding marine program staff and our valued partners at the New York Sea Grant. Becky is here. Thank you so much, Becky. And you're going to hear from Becky as she wraps up the conference. We're so grateful for your unwavering support. So thank you. Thank you. And thank you all for your commitment to this significant initiative and for actively participating in discussions that can propel the industry forward. So listen, today we're going to be really honest and candid. You guys are fishermen. You're going to tell it like it is, right? So I'm expecting that. We are all expecting that. But we also know that this is a room for wonderful conversation, for dialogue, and to help move us forward, okay? So our intention here is to have an amicable discussion. And hopefully these electeds will go back to the drawing board, get all this stuff done, and move some of this stuff forward. And if there's ever anything that you think Cornell Cooperative Extension can be doing, obviously you have a wonderful marine team that you have access to. But if you ever need access to me, I'm always around. And I'll leave my card in the back with information so you guys can reach out. So thank you, Michael, for your patience. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Preston Durbin. Thank you so much.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us at the 8th Annual New York Seafood Summit. I am Kristen Gerbino. I'm a fisheries specialist here with Cornell Cooperative Extension's Marine Program. CCE had been added to the summit planning team a few years ago to incorporate and involve the commercial fishing industry. And I think we were very successful at that, as we can see today. The fisheries team works very closely with Long Island's fishing industry members, both commercial and recreational, on a number of innovative research and education projects. We work on a lot of research projects in the field of conservation gear technology. So that means designing and testing new gear modifications to reduce bycatch of fish and marine mammals, help avoid fishery closures, help rebuild fish stocks that may be overfished. We are heavily involved with our marine debris removal projects, where we have removed over 23,000 derelict lobster pots from the Long Island Sound. We work on trawl surveys to study the fish populations before, during, and after construction of some of the wind energy projects. We work on contaminant studies to make sure that the seafood that we eat is safe and healthy. We do some technology transfer, so helping the fishing community get the different gear and devices that we study and that are effective out to the fishermen at a reduced or no cost, along with getting electronics in the form of iPads to fishermen that are tasked with mandatory electronic reporting. And we have a big local seafood marketing campaign, our Choose Local Fish initiative. FISH is an acronym for Fresh, Indigenous, Sustainable, and Healthy. And through that program, we really want to raise awareness and increase demand for local fish, challenging imported seafood, and getting more consumers interested and excited about eating local seafood. Cornell has developed a very strong working relationship with this industry by listening to what they need and want, and helping develop cooperative research projects to address their challenges and needs. So this is a unique arrangement. Fishermen usually come to us and say, here is what I need and what our challenges are, and we develop grant proposals and work together to accomplish those goals. So it ends up being a win-win for the fishermen and the resource and Cornell. So through these important activities, we're helping to support the industry, helping them be able to fish smarter and not harder, reduce bycatch, increase demand for local seafood, create markets, increase profits for fishermen, and support the overall economic viability of fishing communities on Long Island. These men and women work bravely and tirelessly to ensure that we have very healthy, fresh, delicious local fish on our plates, and also are feeding the nation. So for that, we thank them, and we're happy to have you all here today. So let me introduce the CCE Fisheries team. We have Scott Curatolo-Wagman, who is the director of our fisheries program. We have Tara McClintock, who is fisheries manager. We have all around. We have our other staff members. We have Emerson Hasbrook, who's been with Cornell Marine Program for
Still around after all
a
these.
very long time. Alex Mercado. Mike Bowen, Tyler Gutierrez, Illusion Rivera, and Amanda Down, John Scotty.
We took him out of retirement.
So thank you, all of you, for being here today, and all of your hard work with the planning of this summit is not easy. So this year's summit is focused on access and opportunities in seafood on Long Island. So through this summit discussion and interaction with our panel and our local officials, we want to discuss the challenges faced by the various sectors of the industry and really work on finding solutions to improving access and creating opportunities for this industry to flourish on Long Island. Last year, at last year's summit, we did have a few local officials present, and the feedback that we received was that was the best part of the summit. The fishing community and industry and all sectors were really excited to get in front of them and have you guys listen to what's going on in the industry. So this year, we felt like it was very important to expand that successful part of the summit, which is why we have the format that we have today. So you'll see, we're just very excited to have our panelists here and our local officials listening to the concerns and challenges loud and clear so that we can begin to devise effective solutions and create opportunities to support this industry. So here's how today's day will go. We will begin with an industry spotlight video that Cornell has created. We visited docks and markets across Long Island to interview additional industry members that we thought are key representatives of the industry. And we asked them 4 questions that will be similar questions that we'll ask of our panel members today. But we want to know their thoughts on the accessibility of local seafood, the challenges that that presents, and any possible solutions. So you'll see as we dive into this video, the questions that we're going to ask and the solutions that we're looking to devise. That video will lead us into our panel discussion and legislative listening session, which will be the focus of today's event. Then we will have a presentation from Jessica Brooks at the Department of Ag and Markets about the New York Grown and Certified program. And we'd love to be able to expand that program to many of you here today. And then we'll have our networking session with Sea Grant, the Fisheries team, our local officials, our panelists, everyone here, so that we can continue these important discussions. We can really get to know each other, we can share resources, and we can advocate for our work and businesses and hopefully just find some great solutions. During the networking session, we will have some delicious local seafood chowder and squid salad from Gray Bar Seafood. We'll have oysters from Baconic Gold. Products, you know, that's an emerging industry on Long Island, so we'd love to try out some kelp products. And that's it. I think we're ready to get started with our industry spotlight video.
Hi, I'm Amanda from Inlet Seafood in Montauk, and also fishing vessel Amanda Joy.
Hi, I'm Charles Etzel, and I have the fishing vessel Keeper.
Chip Edwards from Shelter Island. Been in the fishing business my whole life. My license number is 17. I fish Gardner's Bay and Montauk.
And my name is Hank Lackner. I'm the owner and operator of the fishing vessel Jason and Danielle, and we're home ported in Montauk, New York at Inlet Seafood.
Charlie Newern, Suffolk Fish Market. Been in the industry for 38 years. Here in Suffolk, New York.
We are Grace and Joe Sawicki, commercial fishing operation, the fishing vessel Miss Grace out of Greenport, New York.
Hi, my name is Jeff Krause. I run the fishing vessel Alicia J, a stern trawler out of Shinnecock, New York. I also run Red Truck Seafood.
My name is Matthew Froelich. I work for Freedom Fishery on 1049 Flanders Road. It's a local seafood market, gill netter.
My name's Timothy Froelich. Been a commercial fisherman my entire life. I own 2 gill net vessels, the Liberty and the Independence, and 3 boats to work in the bay.
Hi, my name is Vincent Russo. I'm the owner of Whitecap Fish Market in Islip, New York.
Seafood could be readily available to the consumers of Long Island if it weren't for certain regulations. And it should be remembered that most of the fish caught in the mid-Atlantic are sustainably caught and overfishing is not occurring.
My seafood's very local and very available because I sell it right on the side of the road, but not everyone has the same opportunity as me to be able to sell on the side of the road. It's a lot of work and a lot of regulations that you have to go through to be able to sell right to the consumer.
Some seafood is available through the local seafood stores, and if you have a green market like my son does, that seafood's available to local people. But the problem with that is getting the word out.
Year over year, unfortunately, it seems to get worse and worse.
Yes, definitely worse and worse.
Generationally, his family could tell stories about the days where we saw a lot more accessibility to local seafood. Right now, it's really ultimately limited to a smattering of fish markets that have been able to stay open over the years on the island. We do not have a central processing plant, so making cut fish accessible to our institutions is particularly difficult, and to restaurants as well. So right now, again, we're really limited to local seafood markets that still have skilled workers. Great.
Over the years, the accessibility of local fish has been more and more challenged, and the availability of fish coming from our local waters has diminished. It's become a challenge for the fishermen, for the markets, for the consumers.
The challenges of making local seafood accessible is the price. Definitely is a challenge. Some places won't carry it anymore because it's too high, and the availability of it with quotas. And one day they're allowed to have 100 pounds, and then they fill their quota, and then that's it. I'm sure these places that want to sell it, it's a problem for them without consistent markets.
Years ago, you didn't have air freight coming in with stuff from all over the world. People did eat local. Now, it gets flown in every day from everywhere.
Fighting imports and aquaculture products that can be sold way cheaper in this country and this state, and by the time it gets our fish that are caught locally, by the time it gets to the consumer, it's just too expensive for them.
Last 3 or 4 years, fish prices have been fairly reasonable, but at the same time, insurance is going up, gas is going up, electric's going up. Everything's going up so drastically, it's hard.
When I was at my son's age, in his 20s, this was $40. Now this same pot's, I think, $187. This is $6,000 worth of webbing. Today, I just got it yesterday. When I was in my 20s, that was about $1,200.
As a local market, not a fisherman, but you also have running a business, the infrastructure, the cost of doing business, taxes, real estate taxes constantly going up. So all of these challenges make it for a tough go.
So because our restaurants in recent years do not have the skilled staff to be able to process the fish themselves, and the same can be said for our quick service restaurants, our schools, institutions, even jails, correctional facilities, right, don't have people that are skilled enough to cut the fish. And the fishermen are not permitted to do that themselves on the boat and sell directly to those places.
There's no infrastructure to help anyone get the seafood off the ocean on the people's actual plates. Everything has to be shipped from the dock to the city, and then it goes from the city out back to the local markets.
Take a look at unused licenses that are still being held. We really haven't
over
seen
300
much
right now
progress.
so far. Licenses that are paid for every year, but not one VTR is filled out with those licenses.
Well, possible solutions are to ease restrictions on the providers of product to bring it to the consumer. At this point in time, they're limited, the producers are limited due to their inability to process their product, number one, their inability to have access to the public. They need a venue to offer it, and three, to possibly increase the chain and channels to offer it to the consumer.
Well, first and foremost, for my business, we need processing capabilities within the state. Right now, my boat has to travel out of state to sell all its squid and underutilized species. We do a lot of business with Rhode Island, and we do business in New Jersey because we have nothing here in New York. And maybe one of the other things that could help the boats out would probably be direct sales from boat to consumer.
I would say to increase accessibility, maybe knowledge on fish species that we are catching in abundance, that are sustainable, that compare in price to something like branzino or tilapia, scup, whiting, squid, fluke.
Ultimately, I would recommend that those who are in positions to make change to law take a look at the states that are doing this really well, that have embraced the local commerce in aquaculture and have formulated laws that will help to encourage that and spread it rather than diminishing it or limiting it, which is sort of where we're feeling we are in New York right now.
Absolutely have been feeling that way for a while.
Possible solutions are again about education, teaching the consumer and customers what's available, and also just making them aware of fish, making them feel good about it, like any other products, advertising and marketing about our local fish or fish in general, its health benefits for the family, for themselves, and how that can impact their lives positively.
Access, in one word. You need to have access to the fisheries and the fish stocks, and they need to take the quota, and however it may be, and stop leaving the quota on the table at the end of the year, so we get penalized for it. We don't get anything back by leaving quota on the table. It doesn't even get counted where they add it to the following year. It just gets thrown away, and this is taking money that could go in somebody's pocket or some youthful person's pocket, and they're eliminating it.
The processing end of things, we don't have a single processor for the underutilized species here in the state of New York.
We need to be able to rely on the Department of Environmental Conservation to really listen to the fishermen and the needs of the residents of the state of New York, lean on the best practices of the other states, reach out to our legislators for additional funding where necessary.
I mean, just all of New York, the promotion of fish. You know, they do a lot of places do different type of promotions, and you know, New York Fish. I mean, we do have one of the largest pieces of property, you know, shoreline, and I feel like New York really doesn't do a good job promoting it. You know, we do it, like out here on Long Island, we do have the farms, and they promote it. We have the Long Island Farm Council. You know, we don't have any real push for Long Island fish other than a couple of little, you know, grassroots places that, yeah, like, you know, little organizations that help out. But in a big thing, they need help too, because they need the money to promote us and to get us on the billboards, to get our fish going, you know, to tell people how good certain species that people don't think are good, that are good.
Thank you, everybody, for participating in our video. For those of you that did, it was a lot of fun going around the island and interviewing everyone that we did. We really learned a lot. So at this point, I say let's get started with our industry perspectives panel discussion on access and opportunities for local seafood. So if our panelists would
Wouldn't mind coming up to the table up front? Okay, so we have 5 panelists up front representing various sectors of the industry. We'll ask them each 4 questions regarding access to local seafood, the challenges to making local seafood more accessible, possible solutions for increasing accessibility, and opportunities that our local officials can hopefully assist in providing, that would provide support and benefit our business. Okay. Panelists, if you could please keep your responses to no longer than 2 minutes, just so that we have enough time for everybody. I know that's a challenge, but we want to make sure that we have enough time for everybody to be heard. We will be keeping a list on the whiteboard over here of key ideas and challenges to refer back to as we begin this discussion. So if something has been said, we don't have to keep saying the same thing over and over. And thank you to our local officials for being here today so that you can be part of this important discussion. Please let's listen to the responses from our panelists first, and then we'll open up the dialogue for a legislative response. We're excited to hear how we can effectively tackle some of these issues that the industry is facing, and how we can support these businesses and devise effective solution for the long-term success of this industry. And then finally, we will let the audience participate and have a question and answer session. But please remember, there are hot topics in this industry. There are differences of opinions. There are many people with different perspectives. So I'm going to ask that we agree to disagree in some cases, and we disagree with each other respectfully. Let's maintain a solution-oriented mindset so that we can tackle these problems, identify the solutions, and have an effective discussion today. Okay? I want to make sure that we really get a lot accomplished today. So the moderator of our fisheries panel is Tara McClintock, CCE Fisheries Team Manager. And then we have our panelists here. We have Al Schaefer, fisherman, lobsterman out of Montauk on the fishing vessel Leatherneck. We have Mike Baus, fisherman aboard the fishing vessel Winsong, out of Shinnecock, New York, and Mike also has experience in the green markets in New York City. Bonnie Brady, Executive Director of Long Island Commercial Fishing Association. We have Mike Lucchese from Gray Bar Seafood in Cooperative, New York. That is a processor, wholesaler, and retailer doing home delivery of seafood. And Matt Ketchum of Peconic Gold Oysters. So thank you to all our panelists for being here today. We're excited to get started with our questions. Great.
I'm on. Okay, thanks so much, Kristen. I hope everybody enjoyed the video, and we're going to go through the same questions from our panel today. After we talk to the panel, we're going to go to the audience briefly for some of your input if you think that, maybe there were certain topics that weren't touched on through the panel. So we're going to start with Al first and then move along, and then we'll go back the other way. In your opinion, how available is local seafood to the consumers on Long Island?
You gotta give me the mic. I don't need mics.
It's all up for the merch people.
Okay. I feel that local seafood is probably very, very available to the general public. The only problem is the price. When we market fish and we send it to New York City, we might get 50 or 60 cents a pound, and per se for scup. And then we see pictures of what they're selling it for in New York City, and it's coming back to the locals at that price for maybe $5 or $6 a pound. So in essence, people really can't afford it. You're talking about affording. And then fluke, right now I know fluke are going for $1.65 to $2 a pound for beautiful fish. And it's virtually impossible for a fisherman to go out there and make a living. Yet those fish coming back to the consumer might be $18 or $20 a pound. So I think the fish are available. There's just a mix up in the middleman.
And how we'll do it is we'll just ask the
Great, thanks,
question
Al.
and pass it down to the next respective panel.
I think the availability is more limited than available. I think a lot of restaurants look at the bottom line and there's always a cheaper species for them. They don't promote the local fish that is available. Again, like you said, you know, our fish that we get cheap money for gets shipped to the city and then it comes back to the restaurants, and these restaurants can't afford the price that they need to pay. If the restaurants promoted more local seafood, I think people would be into that. We're on an island, people expect fresh seafood. I think the restaurant industry could really help in pushing, you know, local sustainable fish in that matter. That's a start.
Great, thanks, Mike. Bonnie, how about you?
Reading the question here,
Do you think local seafood is available to consumers on Long Island?
it's available, but a lot of the issues have to do, first of all, as Mike said, you know, it's price point. Restaurants do not buy $20 a pound fish, you know, just like they're not gonna be selling Wagyu for $1.99, and consumers don't really even a lot of times know how to fillet fish. And so they're not going to, in many cases, go and buy a whole fish because they just don't know what to do with it. We've lost over the course of however many years that I've been doing this, but before then, fillet houses, which were a standing set for everyone. I mean, we've lost fillet guys even in Hunts Point. So we've lost 70,000 restaurants in the US after COVID. So a lot of New York's market is also fresh fish because we don't have processing. And as a result, we have a timestamp as to how long it can be utilized by those restaurants. So we have less demand, the prices are more. Sustainable Fisheries Act, which was put into place in 1996, at that time, 55% of American seafood was imported. The 20-year timeline of the Sustainable Fisheries Act, which required 10 years and not one more day for any overfished species, turns out 20 years later, we're at 92% imports. No one stopped eating fish, they just stopped eating our fish.
Thank you, Bonnie.
I do think that local fish is available. I'm a processor. I sell to the public. I sell to restaurants. Fish is available. The stuff is in my warehouse every day. I think the biggest issue is that what we're seeing right now, just to hear from these guys, there's a disconnect between me and you guys and what we heard on the tape here. There needs to be some kind of way that we can get together. I mean, I'm a processor. I have guys in my warehouse that have been working there for 15 plus years. I keep hearing that there's nobody that cut fish. I got guys.
You have them.
I have. I'm here. But and I'm not trying to brag. But there's a disconnect. And then maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm naive to it. I live this every day. But there needs to be something said to kind of get us to connect. And I mean, maybe this is what this is about. I mean, it's available. I'm here, and yes, I think price is a problem, but I think if we work together, I mean, I could sell 60 cents and make money all day long and not sell for $20 a pound. But I don't have the access that easily because of, problems with regulations. And if I buy fish off of Al, right away they think I'm a criminal. So.
All right, well, we can help you with that. We've been through that. We know,
It's a tough thing.
we're here to make connections and also, build different businesses and support. So how do you feel about seafood accessibility, Matt, in your mind?
So oysters in general are a lot more accessible than local fish, especially locally. People are starting to get to know the different brands, and we're able to sell direct to restaurants. Oysters don't have to be filleted first. Not everybody knows how to shuck, but restaurants are getting better at that. So we're able to sell direct to restaurants where in other states, they don't really have that ability. They need to have a shoreside facility or sell to a distributor. So we're able to sell direct to consumers, direct to the restaurants. The issue is, as you've heard from everybody else, is the price. We're competing against 40-cent oysters from Virginia, 60-cent oysters from Connecticut, and we have to get 80 cents because it's so expensive to operate in the state. Dockage, just living out here in general, and the taxes.
Thanks, Matt. All right, we're gonna go in, I know you just mentioned a challenge, but the next question is, what are the challenges to making local seafood accessible? What are there other things, you know, getting staff for you, is that a challenge? You know, maybe, is there other things that you see as, you know, hurdles to get over, even just to get into your, business, you know, what it took for you to get going?
Yeah, well, everybody told me I was crazy when I got into this business, and they definitely were right. I would have quit if I could have a couple times along the way, because I was like hanging on by threads at a couple points. Logistically, it's very difficult. Dock space is, it seems like the only people that can afford to have a dock slip nowadays are people that don't even use their boats. I was even told where I have my boat that I'm lucky I'm still there. And, you know, they don't want a smelly oyster boat next to a fancy speedboat or yacht. As far as help, I've done pretty good getting help, but I think some sort of internship programs that are subsidized a little bit by the government. And I hate asking the government for help, but people need to be trained a little bit more in this field. So yeah, you know, logistically, it's really hard, and we need to produce more oysters in order to maybe produce them a little bit cheaper. And you know, it's a lot of money between the payroll, the gear, and the oyster seed, and to grow our business at all is very hard. So, you know, some sort of incentive to do that would be good.
Great, thanks. And we can talk more when we get to solutions and opportunities. What are the challenges in your business, Mike?
To make local seafood accessible. I mean, I don't think that there's a challenge to make it accessible. I think it needs to be more affordable. Like I mentioned before, if I'm like, I don't buy off of fishermen for my business, because I mean, I'm just afraid of somebody coming in and something's not filled out right, and now they're coming after me, and I, you know, all I did was make one mistake, or you know, something didn't go right, and right away they're coming down on us like we're the worst in, you know, people alive. So I think that there's some kind of disconnect, and maybe there needs to be some help. And you know, I'm not sure really what the ultimate solution is, but I mean, if I was able to get off fishermen and make that connection here, and I mean, we have the capabilities to get the product out, and I mean, that's basically where I stand on it. I mean,
Right, you have state permits only,
Yeah.
right? So you could purchase off a state fisherman, but you can't purchase off a federal fisherman.
Right, well,
If you don't have the federal, there's a lot of reporting
a lot of
involved.
reporting, which also takes on more payroll, and it just creates a problem that I don't need to have that, you know, I can get the fish in Fulton and get it other ways.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Bonnie, can you give us some challenges into making local seafood accessible?
Oops, yeah, well, I'm gonna jump at what I didn't say in the first 2 minutes of my thing regarding sustainable fisheries. Yes, the US has made sustainable fisheries, but the problem is that the imports that are coming in are not held to the same standard. And that's a huge issue. I was pulling some stats off of my email. In 98, tilapia was a $55 million fishery. Now, in 2014, it was a $1.1 billion fishery, and the amount of imports went from 9 billion in 99 to 2013, 18 billion. That's the problem in a nutshell, because people, I mean, Paul Greenberg's talked about it, you know, the four fishes, et cetera, but if you don't know how to fillet a fish and you don't know what to do with the fish, you're going to either have Whole Foods send it to you and you can just pop it in the microwave and do it, or, you know, people that are local will go to a local restaurant. So how do you get more people eating fish? You have to make it more accessible. You have to make it at a cheaper price so that it's less than the cost of tilapia, which is about $4.99 in the supermarket. And I've seen $6.99 for scallop whole in Cinderella, which is literally, they take the box and they just put it back on the truck and send it back. So, and I think people have to understand that in addition to it being sustainable, one more time, are there any fish left in the ocean? That we're the gold standard, and that should matter when you're going to a restaurant.
Thank you, Bonnie. Mike, how do you feel? You see it from, you know, both from the fisherman's point of view and also from, you know, selling in the green markets.
Yeah, and I think
Give
the
us
big
some
issue,
challenges.
like Mike also said too, is the permitting. You know, we get the DEC food fish license, we're allowed to wholesale fish. We're not allowed to sell directly to the end consumer without another permit. And then if I want to do that, I have to be a dealer permit. I have to record every week what I caught, where I caught it. It's a whole other headache. My wife is good with the computer and does that for me, thank God. But there's so many hoops that you have to jump through to get my local fish, even to Mike, like he said, you know, if he buys a box of fish, you have to make sure every tag, date, name, everything is on it, just to be legal. The guy's buying a box of fish, you know, it's a whole employee, it's a whole salary. Yeah, it's a whole business just doing this. I think that's a huge challenge. And New York is so strict with these permits and regulations that it's so time consuming and so much effort involved to just sell fish at a local level. A lot of people just don't do it. We'd rather just send a box of fish on the truck to Bolton and let them deal with it. We get paid what it is. It's not the ideal situation, but it's kind of what we're stuck with doing as fishermen. We have a full-time job maintaining our boats, our gears. We have enough cost that these permits and to actually get it to the consumer is just a whole other situation that we would have to deal with. Quite frankly, we don't have time to do it. I think that's a big factor.
Thanks, Mike. How do you feel about it, Al? What are some of the challenges? We did start a board from some of our interviews, so if you need any more inspiration, I'm sure you don't. You've been around long enough, you know.
Mike, and I have 2 lobster boats and a dragger. And the problem is selling to the general consumer is whether you are federally permitted or state permitted. If you're state permitted, you can sell to the consumer that walks to the back of your boat and sell to them. If you have a federal license, you're not allowed to do that. And law enforcement is very stringent about it, and they're very much around the docks. So, like I said, I agree, and that was gonna be my statement on this, so I really don't have much more to say on, question number 2.
Okay, you want to talk about some of these challenges that we heard from the video, or you want to?
Yeah, I think we came up with these challenges, like Tara said, as we did our interviews for the video. And then some people that weren't able to make it here today have provided some challenges. So, is everyone able to see this and read this in the back, or would you like us to read it? Can't see it? Read it. Okay.
So we have high cost of fuel, dockage, shipping, and the fishing gear. We have some, lack of infrastructure or infrastructure that's in disrepair, lack of processing facilities, difficulties in finding crew and cutters, unfair distribution of quota, impacts of wind farms, limited direct-to-consumer opportunities, which we heard a lot of, poor market value versus high restaurant value, no comparable subsidies to agriculture products, access to permits is also challenging, federal and state, limited seafood marketing and promotion, impacts of climate change, lack of gear and electronics repair services in New York. We don't have any of that. It's got to go out of state for the most part. And weak government relations. And then we just added reporting, expensive to consumers, lesser standards for imports, and the perishability So being that with all the challenges that we have, we're gonna start talking about solutions. What are possible solutions to these many challenges, that you might have? You got your own.
I would say maybe, harder standards for the imports. The cost inability where we're getting paid such a little amount and then the fish is getting processed and coming back so expensive. And a little less, problems from Washington City.
Thanks, Al.
I think, it's very tough to commercial fish out of New York State. And like I say every year at this, New York State doesn't have our back as fishermen. They don't promote us. We gotta fight for everything that we do, permits, catch, everything. Stony in Connecticut, they have a huge seafood festival, maritime festival. Block Island does something, Rhode Island, Jersey, I know Cape May. Like, everywhere, what happens in New York State? Nothing. We're an island that's been around forever, raised on whaling and fishing. And, there's no support from the government locally or the state. And I think, infrastructure as far as processing, if we could process, I didn't even know, Mike, I never heard of your business until today. We don't have any big processors, basically, we're limited to Fulton again, and why can't our fish be processed and sent to institutions, to schools, to jails, to senior homes? The fish are there, we can catch them. And maybe we could all make some money off of them. But I think we need the state and our government to back us as fishermen much more than they do.
Let me see that was there. Okay, high costs of use, we don't have enough time for that. Yeah, but I'm gonna look at the chat. You want me to say the high cost of fuel? Well, Fred's done that for how many years now? Get rebate the fuel tax. We had it approved once and then it got vetoed by, Governor right after Governor Spencer. Infrastructure and disrepair. Well, there could be funding, but we unfortunately haven't gotten much of that. Lack of processing facilities. Apparently you are the guy for processing on the island. There's all kinds of processing. You could have mobile fish markets. I've talked about this for years. I've been on the Long Island Regional Economic Development Council trying to find funding. The problem is having funding on top of funding or having people that could write grants for that. Mike, you're nodding your head because we batted ourselves together about that. Difficulty finding crew and cutters, if the money was good and I think that they would kind of show up, but we've got to get more sales going. Unfair distribution of quota. That's state by state issue with fluke, black sea bass and scup for a very long time. New York got screwed on quotas and it doesn't look like we've sued and we've lost every time we've tried. Impact of wind farms. Yeah, we have another show for that one, right? Okay. Limited consumer opportunities, poor market value versus high restaurant value, getting restaurants to be able to pay more for underutilized species and still charging a fair price. Access to permits. That's based on limited access. That's not going to change anytime soon, probably. Limited seafood marketing promotion. We did the Pride of New York seafood campaign 20 years ago, 15 years ago with that. But the problem was in restaurants, it was only as good as the manager that made sure that it showed up on the menus, that people had a clue.
Yes, but in other states, they have full-time personnel dedicated
we have, and that's
to
the
programs
saddest thing, and I hate
to
to say
support the
this.
seafood industry.
We have lost so much support amongst Republicans, Democrats, anybody that's been in elected office. They have virtually left us out to dry. Occasionally, we've had support. Fred, you helped us with the idiot living in their parents' basement route for permits when Stein unfortunately rolled his boat. But except for Fred and occasionally from some of the congressmen or the senators on certain issues, we have not gotten the support we have. Rob and I tried for how many months, Rob, to get actual processing done at Fulton Market to feed the prisons and the things during COVID. Nobody was willing to cough up any money. So unless we can get some actual concerns and people that are willing to bring their money to New York, get that 7 years no tax thing that they used to do when Governor Cuomo was here or something. We are.
I think this is a start, you know, this is everyone getting together to get out the issues, talk about solutions. And, you know, take a step forward. Everybody just coming together here today is a sign that we can start.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. I mean, I think a solution is doing what we're doing right now. I mean, just me sitting here, my wheels are kind of turning and kind of thinking about, you know, different opportunities and what could be. I mean, there's potential for it. Yeah, I mean, just to keep doing what we're doing and talking about it and you know, put some words into action and you know, I think something really good could come out of it, you know, definitely.
Yeah, I feel for the fishermen, especially when you're fishing in the sound and you're only allowed 50 pounds of sea bass, but you gotta boat a mile away from Connecticut, and so I have to keep 200. I think they need to have a little more flexibility with the regulations for these guys, and you know, if they have daily trip limits, maybe turn it into a weekly limit so they can land it in one day instead of having discards, which everybody complains about. As far as improving accessibility, you know, maybe somehow we need to incentivize these restaurants to purchase and use local seafood, even though it's a little more expensive, somehow subsidize it a little bit.
That's a really great idea, Matt. Incentivizing the purchase of seafood. You know, we worked with Mike from Sea Grant to, you know, give all the seafood markets these totes that people that purchase local seafood would get the tote bag to bring home and bring it back when they purchase more seafood. And they were very excited about it, but it's not enough. There needs to be more. There needs to be more support. We give our senior citizens coupons to go to the farmer's market to purchase local products. Is there some way that could translate over to seafood? Or, I mean, I'm just throwing different ideas of how we could possibly improve awareness and interest and demands. So, and that moves us into what opportunities? Okay. We have a comment from our virtual participation. They say schools want fish. Do they want to speak?
We can ask. Amy, would you like to share more?
Hi, sure. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
So I had planned on being there in person. I'm Amy Bly. I am with CPE Harvest New York. I'm the Farm to School coordinator for Long Island. I have worked with both Tara and Kristen in doing a pilot with a Nassau County school last year. We are hoping to expand that. I have a subcommittee of food service directors locally from Nassau and Suffolk counties who all would love to purchase and serve some local Long Island fish. So I'm hoping this helps everyone and we get some traction and get some solutions figured out to get the fish to the schools and to the kids. So I'm here to support you all.
Okay, thank you, Amy. Yeah, and through Amy's program that she works on, the schools are incentivized through Harvest New York to purchase New York products. And we were able to get seafood included in that program. Okay.
And then there's
I'm sorry.
Judy, did you want to expand on the vouchers real quick?
Yes, hi, my name is Judy. I run a farmer's market in Harlem in the Bronx. You mentioned about using vouchers at the farmer's market. As a market manager, we accept Fresh Connect, which is for veterans that accepts basically SNAP eligible items. Also, the market accepts SNAP and EBT. So there is a way for people to use their vouchers. However, there's not the people to buy from. So as the mentioned in the video about us smaller farmers markets who want to address this issue and bring someone, but we're also struggling with financial concerns. Is there any feedback or how we can actually support and have you at farmers markets in the city? Like what do we need to provide or what we could do, what financial support is there? because the vouchers can be used. There's just nobody to use it for.
Thank you, Judy. Yeah, you know, there is a group of fishermen like Mike Baus that do go and sell at different markets, but again, it's limited because they're the harvesters as well, and there's so many markets, they can't be at, you know, 2 places at once. But you know, we do have a list of fishermen that do farmers markets, so let's stay connected and see if we can get a vendor for you. So we're gonna move on to our last question with the panel. We're gonna start again with you, Matt. What opportunities would best support and benefit your business? What programs?
Well, I'd say, we have some help from the USDA with some loan programs and crop insurance, but for us, in order for us to grow our business and grow more oysters, it's a tremendous risk. You have the additional payroll, the gear, and the seed. We're not even able to recover the additional cost of growing our business like that until a year and a half, because it takes a year and a half, sometimes 2 or even 3 years to grow the oysters. So just something like a really low interest loan, like the EIDLs that they had during COVID, like I wish I would have borrowed a lot more money from that, but you know, some low interest loans like that will give us that little bit of helping hand to give us a little more confidence, because it's just such a tremendous risk. It really just feels like starting over every year. And if something was to go wrong and you had all this additional investment trying to grow your business. So yes, low interest loans, some sort of grants for, or rebates or credit system for gear, seed, and payroll. I mean, those are the 3 things that we really need help with, especially when we're trying to grow our business and produce more.
Great, thanks, Matt.
What opportunities would best support, I mean, for my business would be, I mean, just to hear, you know, that fish into the school, the fish into the jails. I mean, if they're looking for local fish to be filleted, delivered, refrigerated, you know, portioned, you know, we can do it and do it in a timely fashion. And that would be a huge blessing for us. I mean, we got the trucks going out, we have drivers, we have cutters, we're here, we're available. And just to make that connection would be, I mean, we're doing it already, and just to do it on, you know, to that magnitude would be, I mean, we've already seen some success. We did an event with Stony Brook University, and that turned into Stony Brook Hospital getting their fish from me every day. We service them. Of course, they went from local fish to salmon every day, but that's what happens.
Right, I mean, things are just happening, you know, they're just starting.
Salmon. It's always, where's the salmon from? Canada, Norway.
All farms, yeah.
So Mike, maybe streamlining some of the permitted process that you have to do, or everyone else has to do.
Even sometimes food is super cheap, and you know, it's been great. The prices have been great, and I'll offer them, hey, we got, you know, blue fillet for $6.95 a pound, and like, okay, great, I'll take my $0.09.
Yeah, that's great to you.
You know, but it is what it is. I mean, you know, but we're here, and I appreciate it, and thank you guys.
Yeah, no. Farm salmon, unfortunately, is one of the largest consumer eaten fish, which if they knew what those farms look like, they might think twice, but that's a real problem. What we need to best support and benefit, well, our home business, my husband is a commercial fisherman. He's got a 64-foot Coast Guard length, 72-foot overall trawler. What we would need to support our business is more consumers eating fish. The more people eating fish, the more demand there is overall. He fishes about 300 days a year. In fact, in about an hour and a half, he will be going back out there. Everybody knows Captain Happy. And he was so upset he couldn't be here today. But what these guys need is what everybody needs. We need investment money, but we don't necessarily want to lose the reins at whatever the businesses are. We could get grant funding from Long Island Regional Economic Development Council, from the small business loans, from the EDA. I mean, they spend $300 billion on the IRA. We can barely get $15 million together I believe, there is a bill that Senator Murkowski was floating, I know I talked to Senator Gillibrand's office about, to allow for being able to retrofit processing facilities. You know, obviously Alaska, they lost 7 because of Trident went somewhat south, but we don't have anything. And, you know, you have to unfortunately inject money in to make money. And why isn't there a US Seafood Act? Why are people pushed toward foreign garbage from foreign governments that literally, meanwhile, we're the ones that are adhering to all the regs and have the most sustainable seafood? Why is that happening? That's the problem.
As far as opportunities, I think stricter government regulation on imports is a huge factor, especially for all of coastal states. North Carolina, with the shrimping industry right now, is getting crushed. Chinese imported shrimp. You're not going to beat the price, but you're eating garbage. And they're, you know, North Carolina shrimpers are getting crushed right now, like I said, because they're getting nothing for their shrimp because everybody wants to buy the cheaper Chinese. And then as far as in our state, again, I think the state government helping us, backing us, instead of treating us like criminals, help us, you know, promote our fish, have some kind of festival, we're catching fresh, delicious fish. There's nothing healthier. What does New York State do to promote it? Nothing.
Zero.
Literally nothing. So, and that would be in terms of having a processing plant and offering different outlets to it. I think New York State has to get behind us much more than they are now.
Thanks, Mike. Al, how you feeling?
Good. Presently, I'm lobstering. Lobstering is pretty good. That's according to me, according to the federal government and the state, no lobsters out there. But my bank account will show different. I think we need our state behind us. And it's an uphill battle, fighting with the federal government and their rules and regulations. I actually did a ventless trap survey for Atlantic states a bunch of years ago, and it was destined to fail. And they set it up that way, so it was destined to fail. I was allowed to place 1 trawl lobster pots somewhere of my choosing in a place where I've never fished before, and we landed probably 15 pounds a pot. When they saw that, they said that trawl doesn't count now. So the rest of them that they put in the desert, they all counted, and there was no lobsters. So they said there's no lobsters in Long Island Sound. There are only a few of us left, but we need the support of New York, and we need to stop fighting the federal government for everything that we're trying to do to make a living.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much to the panel. Really. We want to give a little time to the audience to bring up any of the challenges that you want to talk about. Maybe something wasn't hit on. If anybody out in the audience wants to. So say your name and your vessel or where you're from.
Right. We got, wait a minute, is that mic on? Turn that mic off.
I want to talk about something there. You talk about quota being left there on the thing. Right now, what I'm going to talk about is this MRAC meeting. We got no commercial representation to speak of on there. That's the body that votes on different things, and they send them by their propaganda up to Albany, and they listen to them. You got you're supposed to have, I think, maybe 7 and 7. Is that, Steve? Is that right? 7 and 7. Most of the meetings is 5 recreational guys and 2 commercial guys. Last meeting, all these commercial regulations come up, so he get outvoted right away. The 2 commercial guys are going to vote the way they should, and the 5 recreational guys are against it. We need to get more commercial guys on there, which seems to be a problem. We've had some guys that have been nominated to that for about 3 or 4 years, and they never moved. They should be on there and take the time to vote on it. The other thing that this was all about striped bass the last time. They wanted to cut our quota by 14%. It ended up being 7% they cut it. But the state quota, the way we do it, the state is very conservative with their striped bass allocation. That's a state fishery. And we always, every year, leave bass quota on the table. We never, and probably about 30 years ago, we went over the quota. and they took it away from us the next year. But the state was more aggressive with that and maybe gave us an extra 5,000 or 10,000 pounds that they don't fill anyway. If we filled it, if we went over, they could take it away next year, but we should use the quota, and we're not like the recreational one and cry about it. We went over. Recreational cries, we just bend over and take it. So, I'd like to see something done with that with the state, get a little more aggressive on our allocation with these striped bass. That's basically what I was gonna say. And the other thing was, I know Cornell's, pretty active in this, propagating scallops. We seem to have a major die-off. We get a good set of a year of scallops all over the place, and about September, October, they die just before the season opens. I know they're working on something right now, but if we had, some kind of thing, a law where the guys were able to take 2 or 3 bushels of scallops this time of year, it would help a lot of guys. The price is good, and if the scallops are gonna die anyway, I think we'd utilize that resource if we can and find some way to use it. Thank you.
And that's John German, the president of the Long Island Sound Lobstermen's Association. He doesn't need an introduction from most people. Anybody else in the audience? No pressure.
Hi, I'm Lisa Broughton. I'm water quality director now for Suffolk County, working on the aquaculture lease program and the water WQPRP. We've recently had a leaseholder session where we heard from our users of the Suffolk County Aquaculture Lease Program that other states have a person embedded in their equivalent of ag and markets that is specifically for aquaculture. So as representatives are looking at the state budget, maybe looking in ag and markets budget to see if they can designate somebody to specifically work with us on the oyster industry. That would be a big help. Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah. Arthur Crester, John was trying to get me on NYSG. They jerked us around for 3 years. Then they finally said, you can't be on that NYSG because I had a violation for trespass. So here I am, still not on the NYSG. And as far as politicians, when they go to vote, they're really clueless as to what we do. I mean, you can't even explain it in plain English. They just yes, 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 and then 6 months later, they go, well, how did I do? And you didn't know.
What do you see as?
I don't know. How many years has it been?
Term limits.
Yeah.
They need to have term limits. They need to not necessarily have the SOMAS as
We have to
being
put
the main.
giant tariffs on imported fish. I mean, tilapia, they grow it in a cesspool. Same with their shrimp. And here we are selling it cheap, the beautiful product we get. And the other thing is, if you talk to anybody that buys fish in the market, they'll tell you they never lose. No matter what they pay us, they don't lose. So they got union guys all working, well, when their contract says, you gotta pay you guys more money, where do you think it comes from? It comes out of the park.
Thank you. Artie Crutchmer from Manitowoc. Do we have somebody else? Steve? Here you go. I got a mic for you. Right here.
Yeah, my name is Steve Haggerty. I have a commercial fishing vessel. I've been fishing out of Montauk for 50 years. The problem is, the government is taking half your money. And I like to see the head bookkeeper. And see what they're spending it on. Okay? I find it really unusual. You know, somebody comes into politics and they have X amount of dollars. I'm just throwing numbers around, $200,000. And they serve and they come out with $30 million. I'm just throwing numbers around. Where'd the money go? Where's the money going? Especially we live here on Long Island. It costs a lot of money. Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, whatever, it's a lot less expensive to live there than here. Okay. The other thing is take your fluke, put it in a case hold, don't fillet it and see how much you're gonna sell. You know, the porgies, there are a lot of porgies around. You fillet them and put them in the case. People don't want to look at a whole fish. You know, I cooked a whole fish once for my wife. She says, I'm not gonna eat that, anything that's looking at me. You know? So,
All right. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Steve.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Let's review some of the solutions that we've heard. And then we can elaborate and we can talk about some of the real action items that we can do to accomplish these solutions. So we've heard modernization and flexibility of regulations, increased processing capabilities of New York. A big one was increased promotion of local and underutilized species, maybe through events, festivals, marketing programs, vocational training for the fishing industry, more consumer education on local species and the benefits of local seafood, comparable support for fisheries as agriculture, grants and funding. Funding was a big one. Streamlining the direct-to-consumer process phase, the potential of mobile fish markets, weekly trip limits, incentivizing local seafood in restaurants, which I think is would be a great one. Purchase and serve local fish in schools and jails. Vendors and farmers markets being able to accept SNAP and EBT benefits. Low interest loans and stricter regulations on imports. Okay, these are the solutions that we heard. Now we'd like to turn it over to our local officials, now that we've had a chance to listen to the perspective of multiple representatives of the fishing industry. Let's turn it over to our local officials to see what you can offer this industry as far as solutions. Okay. If you don't mind, just introduce yourself or the audience on Zoom.
I'm Bill Pell. A lot of you guys know me. I was around before Emerson Hasbrook. What happened to him? I had black hair, he had red hair. He was skinny, I was skinny. I can remember when the guys used to come down, like Morris from Suffolk, they used to come down, buy fish off the dock. That's one of the problems. The local deals can't come down to the dock anymore, like just what you said. Captain Benz used to come out, 2 cousins, Harry Highgrade. People I was not even around anymore used to come down. Your local towns do support you. Montauk, who owns your docks there?
Town Dock owns 2 of the dock, the East Town of East Hampton owns 2 docks as part of the LWRP to allow for access to the fisheries. And that's part of the Coastal Zone Management Act and is then folded into.
If you'd have some good town officials back then, they would have been.
Right, unfortunately, yeah, it's since then, it's not been the same. It's been, there has been a real void of the support we had 20 years ago. And
We bought the village, have the town dock there for those guys. Emerson was there when that was built. Hampton Bays had 3 pack-out docks one time, now they have none.
Right.
Okay. The town, we just voted on the supervisor here, just voted on a $1 million bond to redo the dock, to put a ramp there, a pack-out dock there, which is gonna be run by the fishermen, not for profit.
Yeah.
That's something big for the town.
No, that's huge.
Southampton is very behind the fishermen because they realize they have enough people interested when you have people like Fred Dale, myself, who are elected, who care and listen. That way, when you go to vote, you have to, the person you vote for, you ask them, what are they gonna do for you? And have them follow up with it, you know? You have them here, what are they gonna do? That's a big thing. It has to start local and work your way out.
There's a couple of you guys have been around since we worked in John Behan's office, right? That's not long, but that's the problem. A lot of people.
Emerson and I and Bill all had darker hair.
That's right. But.
And John Scotty.
Inherently, that's the issue though. If you don't, and you, I mean, you're right in with fisheries, so. People with their, maybe what you're saying is people within the fishing industry need to go and run for office. Because without doing so, it's not happening. Unfortunately, in certain cases, because I tried a couple of years ago. It doesn't always work and there are different values.
There's
for
no money
certain
in it.
towns. Well, I don't get any money right now, so it wouldn't be a change, you know?
You're doing a great job. Like years ago, my father was on the Mid-Atlantic Council. He was one of the first members from New York there.
Right.
He came home, I can remember him saying, there's lawyers and bankers and corporate people, they don't know nothing about fish. He did his term, he got off, then I think Bob Cooper got off. You know, then I think,
Larry, no, he was ASMC.
who's his, I can't think of. Laura, who's it?
Lori Nolan.
Yeah, yes, she got on.
Yeah, now Dan Farnham's on, but it's still,
It's hard.
you know, having the regulations, modernization, there's two sets too, for most people that don't know. You've got state regs, which are 0 to 3 waters, and then you've got the federal regulations saying you can flexibility might in certain cases for state waters fisheries, but they also have to adhere to federal regs. So for fluke got cut by what, 62%, I think, this year? So it might be a little bit more pricey.
And for years, I've been saying the reason New York's fluke quota was cut so bad was from day one, when he first started, and nothing to blame on Emerson, but when he used to come around and take the tallies, fishermen lied.
Well, it wasn't so much that they boxed, fishermen boxed at sea and it was proprietary. And as such, there was people before Emerson that possibly had a little creative accounting going on and they weren't really interested in what was there, or they would show up at the dock and ask the person, okay, what's in these boxes in the truck? And they would just say whatever. But the
I used to
reality
do the
is.
same thing. They used to ask me, he used to come in and go through the tickets. What do you got?
Well,
400
but the
copies.
reason for that is because if somebody said, hey, Bill's catching them really good in Southampton, he's over by there, then.
That's it.
It's not because of some historical sneaky stuff going on.
No
It's
one
just-
knew. No
but-
one knew. We didn't know back then.
Right, but unfortunately, what happened is the state by state quota, the states that had the returns from the dock, you brought your fish here, I was a dock, I bought the fish, here's your
Yeah.
receipt. They got the quota, and because we boxed at sea on consignment to
We
Hunts
got- we
Point,
stuck it.
we got the shaft.
Yes,
And
and
that's
that's
the
what
problem.
happened. Local fish market wasn't good. It was too easy for the local fishermen to sell to Fulton Fish Market instead of,
Well, right, there weren't docks for the most part, there was no processing, so they weren't buying that every other state back to processing, North Carolina,
Yeah.
Massachusetts, those guys brought it in, processed, cut the check, see ya.
And we, it was just a handful of processors way back then, but they never survived.
Right.
So-
Mark Agger got whacked by Sandy and he's never been
Yeah.
able to come back.
And people aged out, the kids didn't want to do it.
Well, thank you very much, Bill, and Maria Moore, Southampton Town Supervisor. Thanks for supporting your local fishermen, and please, reach out to us at Cornell if you want to have more conversations, maybe about, different things that we can do to highlight this really important industry.
Thank you, you will.
Okay, great. Is there, Fred, would you like to say anything in response to some of these challenges and opportunities?
Well, first, thanks for warming up the crowd for us. I appreciate that. So, I'm going to take this opportunity because this will be my last chance to talk at the Seafood Summit. This is my last year. And first of all, I know a lot of you in the crowd. It's been a pleasure to work with all of you for all of these years and for all of the discussion today, because there is so much to be done and so many problems. We also have had the opportunity to make some progress on some of these things. And so what I would say is you have like 2 whiteboards full of challenges and solutions. I think to actually get something done is identify, a handful of doable solutions. And, it's the old, how do you eat an elephant, one bite at a time, and, make those priorities and work with all of us to try to get them done. I mean, for example, one of the things this year is the governor's budget has $5 million in it for Long Island seafood processing grants. That's new. We need to make sure that that is in the final budget. Maybe 5 million is a nice start, but maybe it should be more, because processing has been an issue, forever and ever here. And it certainly became really, if people didn't understand that, they certainly did, during the pandemic. Before the pandemic, we worked on issues with regard to, the food fish licenses and the regulations there, which many make absolutely no sense at all, and they certainly aren't designed to grow the industry. It was hard to get consensus on a lot of things on licensing issues, but I think, we identified some things. Those are things we should push. Bonnie mentioned the issue with fuel taxes and having it exempt at the pump and not having to file all the paperwork to get your money back. I mean, those are just a few of those issues. And then I think grants and funding are of critical importance. There's always the money in the regional economic development councils, identifying projects and then really pushing for those projects. And let's try to make a dent in some of these things with some of these priorities. The largest commercial fishing ports in the state of New York are still here on the east end of Long Island. And the other thing for local government, we have a community preservation fund. The community preservation fund has been very successful in protecting lands and things of that nature, but we amended it. One of the things that came out of one of these summits was, we should have a category about protecting maritime infrastructure, kind of like a farmland preservation program for the marine industry. And we made that change. And I met yesterday with some of the representatives from East Hampton Town, looking at that for Montauk. But, putting together a plan of infrastructure, things that are needed, whether, pack houses or docks or whatever. And these lands are being converted into other uses. And if you don't have the infrastructure, to me, infrastructure is really important. If you don't have the infrastructure, if you don't up the upkeep of the infrastructure, when you lose it, you're never going to get it back. So, I mean, that's something we could work on with local government too. So just a few ideas. I don't think if there was one silver bullet, if it was easy, it would have been done already. But just a few ideas of things that I think, we certainly should work on.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you. Anybody else? Michael Fitzpatrick.
I'm Mike Fitzpatrick from the 8th District, Smithtown and Islip. I'm on the Agriculture Committee, have been for the last 3 years. One of the, listening to the challenges you face, it's not unlike the problems the dairy farmers upstate are facing. One thing we did, Chris Tague from upstate and I, he's the ranking minority member on the Ag Committee. We identified the problem is getting, in the New York State Legislature, the delegation was from the city, and both the Senate and the Assembly are dominated by city members. City members, and we had one member, Jamie Williams, who grew up on a farm in one of the islands down in the Caribbean, and she was the only city member that really understood ag issues. So Chris and I started, maybe this is something we should do here. We just did, I think it was our 5th ag tour. We called it farm tour. And we did it here on Long Island. Rob Carpenter was very instrumental in setting up the stops that we made. But we organized this specifically to get the city members to come up to farm country upstate and really see with their own eyes the challenges and the problems that farmers are facing. The dairy industry is suffering greatly here in the state of New York. And they have the same problems you do. It's taxes, it's the cost of doing business, it's the regulations. This is a tough state to do business in. It's becoming a tough state to live in too. And there's some politics involved in that. I'm from the side of the aisle that believes the private sector should be free to do what it does best, and that is run their business, grow their business with a fair amount of taxation and regulation, and then get out of the way. Some of the city members don't think that way, and yet they are the dominant, caucus in the 2 houses. So maybe if you did it during the nicer weather, invite the city members, do a Long Island fish tour, if you want to call it that, and bring those city members out so they can see with their own eyes. It's one thing for everyone to come up to Albany, but it's not the same. Invite them out talk to you individually, maybe go out on a boat, see what it takes to produce, what you produce on a daily basis. And I think that could be helpful. We also have, Governor Hochul's new Long Island representative is Rob Clarko, former presiding officer of the Suffolk legislature. Get Rob out this, to see what you do. He's a direct line to, also Vanessa was Governor Cuomo's Long Island rep. She knows the job. That she was a direct line to Governor Cuomo. She was very helpful to me on a couple of issues, but bring them out here. I think that's the best thing you can do is talk to them about these issues. But, it's hard for you guys to go up to Albany. I understand that. But, if you did this over July and August when we're not in session, doesn't take much to, get the city folk to come out to the East End, for a day. We can book some hotels. We know what we're doing with the farm tour. We can apply the same thing here to the fishing industry and get the city members out to see what we do. Because if we can turn them around, the rest of the state will be easy, come on board.
I think Mike's idea, and by the way, Mike has been a great ally on both agriculture and fishing issues, and I think that's demonstrated by the fact that he's here today also. But I think the idea of having that kind of tour would be a great idea. It could be, Cornell and Sea Grant and Farm Bureau and, bring them out. And a Friday in the summertime, you'll get their attention. It doesn't have to be a Friday, but I think that does help. Because trying to explain to, not just city members, but when it comes to maritime issues, the Marine District is basically Long Island and, around Long Island Sound. Seeing makes a difference. And I would certainly, and I know that Tony Palumbo and Jody and you and I, we could be the legislators sponsoring that, working with your organizations. We'd be glad to do that this summer, or you're all busy probably in the summer, maybe the fall.
We'll make time.
We'll try to, but I think that's an excellent idea.
Me too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, great.
Hello, everyone. My name is Stephanie Bontempi. I'm a legislator here in Suffolk County. I know nothing about the fishing industry, so this was extremely enlightening to me to hear. Also that upsetting, that you are struggling as much as you are. I grew up in Sweden. You can probably hear my accent. I grew up eating fish. And I know how to fillet fish, and I don't care if it stares at me when I'm eating it. So, all kinds of fish. So as a county elected, I don't know that we can do much about all the permitting. And again, I'm just like you, Senator Fitzpatrick. I believe in less rules and regulations. I mean, some need to be there clearly, but when it impedes business, that's terrible. But I'm trying to think of what about coming at it from a health perspective? Because you're talking about it's healthy. We all know fish is healthy. We all know that we are a country of, we are dealing with obesity and diabetes and all kinds of things. But if you eat fish every day, you probably won't, you'll be a healthier person. So is there something we can do coming from the health aspect rather? And then the processing plants that you're talking about, that you can't process it here, although it seems like you can, but nobody knew about it.
So there's a lot of regulation.
Yeah. What kind of expense are we talking about for something like that? I have no idea.
You mean the cost of building a processing facility?
Yeah.
It's several $1 million, easy.
Okay.
I would say.
Finding the land. Yeah.
Right.
Right, staffing it, all the regs that are required for doing so. You've got a HACCP plan ad nauseum. You've got all of the permitting. I don't know of many people that would just start out and go, I'm gonna be a processor. I think a lot of companies, that have like Lund's, for example, they've got processing down in Cape May, they've got processing in New Bedford. So they tend to have a couple places, and that's been a big problem, like Hank said in the film. We've got tons of fishermen that are going over to Rhode Island to pack certain species because of processing. And You know, they may not get the boom and bust of the market, but they're guaranteed a certain price. As far as the fish being healthy, totally agree. But I also testified in the Suffolk County Legislature a couple of years ago when one of the members accused all fish of having PCB contaminant or mercury contamination. And that was another story, but they were also supporting an aquaculture bill, which would have put us all out of business. So, well, it's a very hard road. The Mediterranean diet folk, who were they? Stephanie Sachs, I believe, and there's a woman that was doing a thing actually for Stony Brook, and they were talking about fish, and remember I had a Richie Ray, when they had striped bass at Stony Brook, Southampton University a couple of months ago, and they were talking about the Mediterranean diet. Stony Brook does it, Harvard does it, all those sorts of things. That's definitely something, but it's a lot of education. But that's the thing, is a lot of writing, a lot of explanation and talking about certain species.
Well, I would be happy to have you come, and speak to us and my colleagues or anyone, and see if there's anything we can do on our end, because it's, something clearly needs to be done, so.
Thank you.
Hi, I'll be quick. Denise Merrifield, I'm a Riverhead Town Councilwoman, newly elected. I'm very excited to be here today. I think this is amazing. I am learning so much. And yes, I am a lawyer, as you said, sir. But the one thing about lawyers is we can get through the red tape. We can sit and read all of that stuff that everybody just decides, oh God, I can't take it. I've decided not to read after the 4th paragraph. So we can help get through that kind of thing. One of the things I was very interested in was the idea of the local festivals, seafood festivals. I had a question. If you don't have the state license, but you have the federal license, right? Can you still sell at the seafood festival? How would you be able to do that?
Only if there's a federal, permanent buyer there.
Would I be able to do that locally here?
You,
Would I be able to get a resolution for a festival here in Riverhead for seafood? If you guys just have federal licenses?
You can be a federal dealer or a state dealer. Like, for example, when COVID happened, you can get a federal dealer's license, and what happens is, so he sells me a carton of porgies, I buy them, I have to go onto the safest website, I have to fill out, he gives me the information, how many pounds, I have to fill out all the information from there. At that point, I can sell to whomever and down the road. Seafood markets, however, we have one in Montauk, and in past years, there was no local seafood. It was everybody wants shrimp, everybody wants salmon. And so that's really something that's important, to have something that if you're going to do it, will have seasonal fisheries involved.
I just like to get.
It also varies on species as well, like tuna is a federally permitted fish. Just this year, I went to apply for my federal dealer permit, so I'm allowed to sell direct to the consumer, not just wholesale.
Okay.
And this year I was told I have to get a separate license from the DEC to cover tuna. It was something that was overlooked for however many years, and this year they're enforcing it. Again, it's just the hoops that you have to jump through to sell direct. You would have to get a federal dealer permit, and that allows you. I gotta think of how this whole process works.
I want to say yes. Let's do a festival here in Riverhead for seafood. We will make it happen. We will get through, and you cut through tape, and I will walk through it, and we will make it happen. And we're gonna do one in Southampton too. Thank you very much. Okay, where are we going to? Do we have any other elected officials that would like to speak? Okay.
Now, if on your evaluation form, if there's anything that you think of going forward later on this afternoon, it comes to you. If you fill out that evaluation form, or there's just something that you don't want to mention to the whole group, please fill it out on that form and get it back to us so that we can include it. Thank you.
Okay, I just want to take the opportunity that we do have the new Director of Marine Resources here from the DEC, Martin Gary. I want to call him up to speak to everyone. Let's give them a warm welcome. You know what? Hey, you new here. Nice, all right? Let's bring in the beach here. And, let's have a fresh start. Welcome.
Thank you, Barney.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. First thing I want to do is, someone.
I know we meet in person now.
Nice
to meet you.
Absolutely.
We'll Zoom so far.
See how this lasts.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm taking this microphone, I've taken my life in my hand a little bit, but, so I'll just make a couple of quick comments. First, I'm brand new at DEC. I'm the new Marine Fisheries Director. I'm only the fourth person to hold that position, since in the modern history of DEC, it's been about 50 years or so. So I feel incredibly honored and humbled and privileged to have that position. Two quick snippets for you. So the first one is, I'm new to Long Island. I came and started working here on September 14th. Prior to September 14th, I've been on Long Island one day in my entire life. That was in 1991, when the Maryland Fisheries Director, as a young striped bass fisheries biologist, I'm a biologist, field biologist by academic training, asked me to come up to an ASMFC meeting in New York on Long Island to talk about the Maryland saltwater fishing license experience. Maryland had a fishing license that started in 1985. That was 1991. We had a positive experience with it. I thought I was coming up to New York to talk about great fishing license experience. And I found out firsthand how folks feel about fishing licenses up here. And when I came in September, not a whole lot has changed. So that having said, I'm new to Long Island. I'm a fresh set of eyes for you all, I think. I spent 37 years working with Chesapeake Bay, 27 years with Maryland Department of Natural Resources and their fisheries service. For about 15 of those years, I oversaw commercial fisheries. I know most of the crabbers, fishermen all throughout Maryland's Chesapeake Bay. I worked with them hand in hand. I'm not going to tell you if you call anyone up down there, every single one is going to say something nice about me, but I bet you a bunch of them will. They'll tell you that I listen to them, I get out in the field with them, I talk to them, and I try to help them. And I say try to help them, because it's hard, right? These things that you were describing, Mike, I get it. I mean, we're dealing on our side, everybody's frustrated, but we're all trying to work, but you can't accomplish anything if you don't get out and meet people and sit there and talk to them and try to go forward with solution-oriented ideas. So I will challenge any of you to call down to the Chesapeake, where I spent my 37 years, 27 with Maryland. The last 10 I was executive director for the Potomac River Fisheries Commission. And to tell you, things aren't always rosy on the other side, grass isn't always greener. We have some things listening to you today, talk about processing capacity. We have 4 mega processors in Jessup, and each one's the size of Costco. And they could cut some fish. And I've worked with all those processors. I know all the people that run those processing plants. I work with them and the fishermen. Our biggest challenge down there, what's their biggest challenge now, because I'm with you all, I'm not with them, is an invasive fish called blue catfish. And when I left there in 2023, the blue catfish landings in the Chesapeake Bay surpassed even some of the Menhaden landings, which are the largest landings. But the good news is we've been working with the fishermen, with the processors, with the restaurateurs, with the retailers, Whole Foods, Wegmans, everybody, to try to get this invasive species on the markets, on the menus. We do specials. You can go to almost any restaurant and ask for locally sourced Chesapeake Bay invasive catfish. And they're all featuring it. So it can be done. There's things that can be done. But I'm hearing a lot of the problems you have, and I understand them. I really do. So I know several of my staff are also listening into this call today. I honestly didn't even know what I was coming to. They said, "Do you want to come to the Seafood Summit?" Absolutely. Ooh, okay. But I think actually this is an incredible opportunity. I'm really excited, and I kept listening. I said, I better take the microphone at some point. So I'm glad Terry offered it to me. But I just spent my first 5 months really trying to get to know my staff. There's about 140 of them. It's really important to me. I'm a people person. So I really need to know everybody. And when I say everybody, it's hard, but I bet you most of those fishermen at Chesapeake Bay, if you talk to them, they run into me from time to time. I try my best not to sit in the office. I force myself, get out, talk to people, meet them at the docks, go out on their boats even.
I was a field biologist for 15 years, the first 15 years, so I'm very much a people person, work with everybody. My head's buzzing, trying to think about how can we do better marketing, all sorts of things, but today is a listening exercise, and I hope you all will give me a chance. I think the folks back home where I came from, this is my new home. I've learned a long time ago, when you get a chance like I have to come up here, I didn't even blink. I said, okay. And I'll leave you with one thing. I told my staff the same thing. There's an old saying fishermen all know, right? You don't leave fish to find fish. I left the Potomac River Fisheries Commission. I guarantee you I had the fish. I found the fish. I had all the comfort, the support. I could have finished my career out there. I left there to come here. I know nobody. I left complete support and comfort for complete uncertainty to come up here to work with you all. And I'll challenge you all. I'm going to do a good job for you. So I'll leave it at that. I'm going to try to listen.
Know that Cornell fish team's here for you too. So we're gonna take it to the audience again for a Q&A. If there's, other audience members, maybe that aren't fishermen, that have questions. But first, we're gonna go to Jeff Kraus, who is in our video. He has one question for Southampton Town.
Yeah, hi. I know that, from what I heard, you guys are gonna be setting up some kind of a commercial operation for pack out at the, in the parking lot. I wonder, first of all, you have a captive audience down there. People are constantly coming down there, looking at the boats, it's like, wow, this is what it's all about. But yet, we can't sell our own fish to the public right there. Now, you're setting it up as a pack out dock. Why can't you arrange something? And I have plenty of ideas as to exactly what should be done, where we can, as fishermen, can offer our products directly to the consumer right there where we catch it. It doesn't have to be a fancy situation, but it's not available to us. Why? I don't get it. Thank you.
Well, I don't know. Would you like the answer?
Yeah, I like an answer, yeah.
The answer is that you have to take baby steps. Yeah. The fishermen started a 504 non-for-profit to run the pack out dock. Once we build the equipment, what you guys are gonna use and pack out dock, they get going, then the next step is let them start wholesaling out of there or retailing out of there. Okay, but we can't start it from the beginning. We have to take the baby steps, because if we start too quick, someone's gonna get hurt, someone's gonna complain, there'd be more trouble than what it's worth. But the supervisor said, why don't we have the festival down there to help promote it? That's a terrific idea. Okay? But we have to make sure that the ramp's built, the trail space is built, the pack out dock. Because if we have the festival there now, it's a mess. It's a mess. Okay? It has to be cleaned up, it has to be built, so you guys can be proud of what you got there. It promotes the business.
I got you, but you don't have to, what I would think you would do there is to offer product directly to the consumer. Doesn't necessarily have to be anything fancy, but it's something that you guys should consider and make a part of what you're doing there.
It's
right from the get-go.
It's not gonna be fancy, it takes time. You can't do it on the first day, maybe the fourth day.
As long as you're gonna consider it and make it part of it.
And the other people who are on the board interested in the seafood business and live in Southampton, we're gonna promote it.
Thank you.
Anybody? Oh, there we go.
Hi. I'm gonna start out with the DEC. I'm gonna tell you a story. My son this year comes to the dock, has 15 different species. And he forgot to put one down because he's supposed to have everything filled out before he gets the dock. There was sea bass. He had 100 pounds of sea bass. He wasn't over on the, or anything.
So the DEC officers there, go back to the car, call their supervisor will write them up. Now, he would have to put it down in his book, because he's packing out, eventually would have gotten down in his book. It's just the lack of people, they're like robots. Another one was, my friend there comes in, he was 140 pounds, whatever it was. He was 18 pounds old. DEC comes down. Do you have any other fish hunting? Yes, I do. I have 18 pounds of sea bass. I'm over. And what he was gonna do was, he's going back out fish tomorrow, and he'd take that 18 pounds and put it towards the next fish. But what you're supposed to do is, you're supposed to throw that 18 pounds back in the water dead, and for crab bait, for that. And he got written up because of it. There has to be some give and take here. You go down Long Island Expressway on 55 miles an hour, and people doing 70, and it's fine. And I get it. Maybe if you go over 70, you get written up as a ticket. When you're out there fishing, it's hard. You want 140 pounds. You don't want less than 140 pounds, because it doesn't do you any good. And it's hard to, it's almost impossible, really, to weigh them and get it right at the boat. The boat's moving out at sea. There has to be some leeway. All right. The next one, low interest loans. I think a gentleman like that, he should get the low interest loans. He should be able to grow. The boats have to, these boats that come in, and they have 500 pounds of fish, they have 50,000 pounds of fish. It's hard to sell somebody 20 pounds of fish a year, 20, you can't pay. You don't have the time, you don't have fishing. So we need, I don't see the Lockwoods here, I don't see the Emeralds here, Gosmans, people with real, you probably did. Yeah. People with real, a lot of space, or they can do a lot more than what they do, but they're stuck in their ways. And they just won't, for whatever reason. Maybe low interest loans might change something. Be nice to have something right here on Long Island. If you're allowed to grow with all the problems you got, I get it. My pet peeve is striped bass. I've tagged striped bass, and I would love to be able to, one or two things. We have an aging population that own these licenses, and I would love to be able to, they could take their permit and write it over to me. So I could go out and fill their tags without having the DEC down my throat all the time. These people, they're not looking outside the box. They just do the same thing they do over and over and over again. They don't want to know nothing. That's just the way it is. I have my other friend, skates a monk. That's what he does in the spring. And he would love to somehow be able to get the best price. It's, Rhode Island, it's simple. You can go there, they'll take his skates. You don't even have to wing the skates. They take the skates. We need a processors here. And I don't know who can do it. Money-wise, it takes money for these things. Regulations is, if you make it too hard for people, they just can't do it. And I don't know what else to say. But my striped bass thing, I would love to either see the striped bass where they could take a permit, an 80-year-old guy, and I'll fill his bass tags for him. Or change it for real and maybe make it so you get striped bass tags and it's 500 pounds a day. And the guy that can do it, there's things that can be done, but nobody wants to do it. Anyway.
Thank you.
That's me.
Thank you.
Thanks, Charlie.
All right, we have a few more minutes left. One or two comments. Does anyone have, one?
Hi, my name is Bruce Mattel. I'm a chef educator from the Culinary Institute of America.
And we do educate our students pretty intensively about seafood, about local, especially with a concentration on the local species in the New York and Mid-Atlantic area. What we try to do, we have 5 public restaurants, and what we try to do at those public restaurants is sometimes put little cards explaining what those species are that are on the menu. And this might be something that you could do locally with some of the restaurants here to promote those, maybe get some funding from the government or local government and print up some of these, very similar to the cards that we have on the Seafood Summit, your website, right?
Right, and
So-
they're in the back over here.
Right, but instead of just like, you have some preparation suggestions too. So, you have some, this is prepared this way on this menu, but this fish also lends itself to this and that. So that's just suggestion. I have a question, and this might be naive because I cook the fish, I love the fish, I eat the fish, I know a lot about the fish, but not as much about fishing. You could tell because he and I go fishing out in Queens and we don't catch a freaking thing. We keep trying though. It's nice to go out there with a beer and just hang out. But my question is about processing. So when 30 years ago, I started a catering business and I started first out of my apartment, totally illegally. Didn't have permits, didn't have anything, right? And eventually I found little kitchens that were permitted that were able to be rented on a daily basis. Now, can this model be applied possibly to processing? In other words, could the fishermen process their own fish if they had a licensed facility? And maybe there was a building with like 7 different processing facilities. And they could rent them by the day or something like that.
When COVID hit, I called every single place I could think of that had space. I know Yaphank has an incubator. The problem with doing some of the incubator type things is you have to have an incubator in order to do an incubator, and it has to be something that is already being done. Like there were a couple people, like Julie Lofsted's husband Ray, I think, was doing it for bait. He was going there, and there were some small applications. And that's what I meant about processing doesn't just mean one thing. It can mean 6 things to 6 different people. What you do is obviously from like boat to fork, but guys that are using it for bait that want to sell it as bait, those that are utilizing it because they just need to play it, and then they've got their own kind of community supported fishery that they're doing on that. Yaphank was the only place that I knew that was large enough that had a HACCP certified kitchen. And for you by New York NCON law are allowed legally to sell fish off of your boat as long as you don't plunge a knife into it. The second you do, you gotta talk to this guy right here, because he's gonna have to set up a HACCP plan for you. But legally, that you are allowed to sell fish off the boat. That's the only thing. And obviously you don't want somebody falling off the dock or going to pick up fish, or then these guys and everybody has problems.
I think also to your point though, kitchen space, yeah, it might be available, like you're saying, but kitchen's kind of unique because of the waste, the smell, how do you get rid of it? What sanitation companies do take it? And then also refrigeration is a huge part, and also freezer facility. We're talking about down the line, if we could get these underutilized fish species into institutions, jails, whatever, there's gonna have to be a frozen aspect to that, which is very costly. And
They only take it in 5 or 10 pound packages. We could have sold to food banks. They were looking to take 40,000 pounds a week. We had no way to make it. When COVID was happening, Rob, what were those farm boxes you have? Are you still here? What are they?
It was USDA project.
Right, it was a USDA project, and everything, all this great vegetables and things were going in, and we couldn't get a fillet into the box because we had nothing to do. Also, New York State allows you to do that. Federally watered species, if you don't have, you've got to have a food fish license in order to be able to do that. And you have to have, even if you get a HACCP kitchen, he's got to also be HACCP
Yeah, no, I
certified in
get
order
that.
to do that. I know you guys know that, but for the rest of the people, there
Yeah.
is a huge process that takes, and Mike offers those classes online still?
There are virtual options and
There you
in
go.
person. I can talk
Yeah,
about
they don't have to be HACCP managers, they just have to be HACCP certified,
trained.
which is 3 days of, or less of
But
training.
for these guys that are, they leave at 3 in and they don't get back till 9 at night.
I totally get, I get it. I totally get it. Like I said, I'm being naive about it, but I'm just trying to be
Yeah.
solution oriented. That's all.
Yep.
It's good to hear a culinary perspective. So thank you, everybody. Okay, we have one more. Like this will be
The last.
the last one.
He looks like he might be a chef.
Am I the only chef or something like that I've seen? Probably. Oh, the chef.
We're all colleagues.
We were colleagues, that's correct, that is correct. On the restaurateur point of view, obviously knowing your issues with regards to processing and delivery and so on and so on, I can guarantee you that I've been in the business over 50 years. And I'm from Belgium originally, so Europe, yes, we grow fish and, we know how to fillet sardine or we know how to fillet a monkfish or anything like that, anything in between or bigger. The thing is on the aspect of labor in a kitchen and basically space in the kitchen. Now you mentioned odor or smell or discarding your problem, the waste. I'm hard pressed to say that probably 60% of the chefs that I meet don't know how to fillet a fish, do not know how to approach a fish. And I'm going to say 60%. That goes from mom and pop operations to startup operations. The lack of space, lack of refrigeration, lack of freezer space will lead them to purchase product that has been fabricated. And that is also the issue. Plus, how would I say, out here on Long Island, what do we have? 50% of Italian restaurants here and there, right? What you'll be hard pressed is find a classical restaurant that serves you a good Dover sole hole in that wicked fillet or serve you croaker, like rouget, obviously, as we call it. And the education, the part of education is quite important as well. We've done, I've organized for the past 20 years a fundraiser called the Morgan Center, which is a center for children, preschool children with cancer out of South Florida Whole Country Club. At one point, we had about 42 restaurants, one fishery, 42 restaurants that were actually doing pasta and raviolis and whatnot. One of the restaurants, one of the seafood representative was actually a sharker, Oysters and Company, from the South Shore. So I'm the first one to participate in organizing some type of seafood festival where rather than to have restaurant, you would have to have a restaurant to cook or process those unknown fishes or unknown species that you're getting out of the ocean and make it palatable. Education again, make it palatable, make it known that there is something else than salmon and swordfish, obviously, or tuna on the market. How many of you here are associated with large volume supermarkets? Anybody from Stu Leonard's? Anybody from Costco? Anybody from Stop and Shop? Anybody from these large purchasers? Why not? Why not? If we don't reach those, why not? Right? So I think at one point, a food festival would be great. I mean, I used to go to the food and fish market when I was working in New York City. I choose my own fish. Why? Because you know what you're selling, you know what you're purchasing, you know the yield, you know the quality, you know where it comes from. There's a tag, no tag, or whatever it is. And you can share that with the customer. It's all part of education. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Right, thank you guys. It's been really great feedback from everyone. Thank you to our industry perspective panel. Thank you to our local officials for listening to our industry today. I think we made some very important connections and we can devise a way forward for all the sectors of the fishing industry to flourish here today. So let's keep these conversations going. I think we just got started with a great dialogue. I look forward to a seafood festival or two coming up in the near future. Please continue this conversation in our networking session that we're going to have right after we have our grown and certified presentations. Thank you.
And thank you, President. Thank you, everybody. Two quick things to clarify. Bruce, you brought up my marketing resources. Thank you very much. Those are all available for free online. They're fully customizable. You can brand them with your own logos, your QR codes that link to your websites. There are 34 different species of those cards, and on the back you can fill in all of the information about the species, where it's coming from, when it was harvested, sustainability aspects, and print them out and use them to market your products, whether you're a restaurant, a producer, a fisherman, farmer at a farmer's market. When we go into our networking session, we'll have a carousel of slides going on the screen. They will be showcased there, and there's a QR code to access them, or just reach out to me. My cards are in the back, and I can get you those. Positive trainings also on there. There's a link to register and learn more about when our trainings are offered. But I want to now introduce, and let me see, Jessica, are you there? Yes. All right. So we've talked a lot about needs and opportunities for funding and processing and infrastructure. So we wanted to invite Jessica Brooks with Ag and Markets and the Grown and Certified program to talk a little bit about that program and some new opportunities coming about as a result through that program. So I will pass it over to Jessica.
Okay, great. Michael, can you see that slideshow?
Yeah, we can. We're not seeing it full screen yet.
Okay, well, let me try to fix that.
Mike, do you want me to put this over here?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not doing full, not sure exactly it's keeping it from happening, but I know I don't have a lot of time, so, and I don't want to lose people entirely before I start telling them about money that.
Okay, we can see it, and can you advance it? Let me see if it changes.
Okay.
We're seeing.
There's a lag.
Yeah. All right, well, we can see here right now.
All right, everyone, first go, we have one more presentation, and this is really for the fishermen. So if you just quiet down, and we'll have one last presentation. This is a program that's available to you.
Hey. All right, Jessica, if you go in the bottom left of your slide, you should see 3 dots, and it says swap presenter view, and that should change the feed.
Oh, thank you.
There you go. You got it.
There we go. Thank you.
All right, everybody, Jessica's gonna start now. She's got some great opportunities, grant opportunities that could lead to you accessing money in the future to build infrastructure. So if you guys get quiet down, listen.
We're talking about funding here. Everybody wants some money.
Okay, this will be quick. I will be as direct and to the point as I can possibly be here. All right, Grown and Certified. I'm not even going to go into an overview of what it is. Although most of you know, it is our state branding program for New York agricultural products. It launched in 2016. These are the fish and aquaculture businesses who have joined the program from the beginning, which we're very excited about. We've gotten quite a bit of attention here and been able to help some of these businesses with their marketing efforts through some of our marketing grants already. But this is the best time to join because we really are have some significant funding to give away. So the cooperative marketing grants, this will be our 3rd round. These are for packaging changes. I know some of you received funding in our previous rounds. This can pay literally for label makers, boxes, bags that are branded with your logo and information as well as ours. It is up to $10,000 per grant. It's first come, first serve. We will be sending out an email to all grown and certified producers and letting you know that that is available. The big one is the Infrastructure Technology Research and Development Grant. This is $5.8 million for the next 5 years. So this has got 5 rounds. This is being organized, or I shouldn't say organized. It is being administered by New York Farm Viability for this first round. The projects are up to $250,000 per project, and this could pay for things like a HACCP kitchen, infrastructure that would help you in your processing. It can be a nonprofit who applies for this grant as well, and potentially can support a group of fisheries and oyster farmers, or whatever the case might be, in order to, you know, help a larger group. Go to New York Farm Viability's website and sign up for an email alert. We are hoping that they are able to launch this within the next month and a half. So that is a great program. There are things that have just launched and we don't have quite as much information on, is the USDA Northeast Regional Food Business Center. These awards are up to $100,000. This includes aquaculture and wild-caught industries. If you go to NASDA.org, and then you can take a look for the Northeast Regional Food Business Center. I don't know if this slideshow can be shared. If it can be, then you'll have all the links yourself. USDA Resilient Food System Infrastructure Grant Program. These are capital infrastructure awards up to $3 million. Equipment, aquaculture is eligible. And in this round, meat and poultry are not. I'm just pointing that out to show you that you are special to us, and that's why you're included and meat is not. Certified.ny.gov is our website. We have a new map search feature that allows you and schools and food banks and retailers and restaurants to find your products through our search tool. I would go through this right now, but I'm not going to. You can check it out on your own. But you would go to certified.ny.gov and go where to buy. Our applications are now digitally online as well as PDF versions. You go to certified.ny.gov, get certified, and you go to the seafood and aquaculture application. You can find all of that there. If you do the online version, please also send in your supporting documentation. For these grants, your membership, you do not have to reapply to Grown and Certified. Once you're in the program, you are in the program. And but you do need to keep all of your permits and licenses up to date to be able to apply for the grants. This is our contact information, and please, if anything, take a picture of that, or Michael can share it, whichever is thank you, Michael. And reach out directly, please, with any questions about these grants. If you hear about other opportunities, because I know, there is the $5 million that we do not have all the information on yet, but obviously we will be building that information out. And that's it. Go enjoy yourselves.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Jessica? All right, so we will share that for you. We'll share these with people so they get it. We did have us muted, so we did get that all recorded, so others will be able to see it. But thank you for joining us for our virtual participants. We're gonna end the meeting shortly and start recording. And thank you all for participating. For everybody else in the audience, if you can hear me, thank you for being here. Enjoy the food and the resources in the back, and we're here for questions.
Thank you. Take care.